Famcast Media, bitch.
Good evening, demons and demonesses. Kwame Wahkan here, and I just got out of an interview with K.K. Reaper. Now, if you remember K.K. Reaper, and the name sounds familiar, he was the ringmaster and lead singer of the Carnies of Chaos, a band that I had reviewed, I think last year, I think the year before for my Halloween special. Now, he just kickstarted his solo career, and he gave me a copy of his EP, Transmissions from Planet Earth. And he's also adding the finishing touches on his debut album, A New Era, which is set to be released on June 25th of this year. I sat down and I had a talk with him earlier about his music, his EP, his full length, and his other plans for the future. So, it was great seeing him again. It's been like a couple of years since I've, actually spoke to him and, actually seen him. So this is kind of a tearful reunion for all of us. But enough about me rambling. I present to you K.K. Reaper. Perfect.
Good?
Yep.
Okay.
I must say, you do have better in there.
Yeah, right. I always wanted to make sure that the background was a good reflection of what we were talking about, so...
So how are you doing this evening, anyway?
Oh, crap.
Oh, it crashed again. Oh no, it's back.
Are you okay? Can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Okay. Everything, it's recording and everything?
Yep. Yeah, I have it on, I have it on, two video feeds, so, yep.
Gotcha. Alright, perfect.
So, for the audience and everything, just, explain to everybody who you are and exactly what you do.
Hello, I am K.K. Reaper. And right now, I am mostly focusing on my music career. I do a lot of sort of shock rock, heavy metal, punky type stuff, all sort of mixed in. Outside of that, I was a scare actor and manager of the Haunted House in Keensburg for 8 years. A makeup and special effects artist for a couple of indie films around the area. And that's about it.
So how long have you actually been, involved in music? Because, I was watching a lot of your older stuff, listening to, your older albums with Carnies of Chaos, and, it's really good production values. It's almost like theater quality. So, have you had any, experience in, theater, whether it be at school or, I know about the haunted house thing, though.
So honestly, the Haunted House was probably the bulk of my experience with theatrics as it pertains to the rest of my career. But in school, I took an intro to theater class, but that was about the gist of it. I did do a lot of I went to college after the fact for audiovisual. So we did a lot of short films and stuff. That was where I started to learn. I always knew that I liked theatrical things. I think in middle school was when I created the K.K. Reaper persona. And we started doing short horror films with me and my friends. And as I got older and I started to develop a little bit of a better understanding of how to work behind the camera and makeup and all those things, and then I started working for the Haunted House, it all just sort of melded together. So when I started going to the music scene, I really wanted to bring the theatrical aspect of K.K. Reaper and all the things that I was doing into the music. And that's how we came up with, up to speed to Carnies of Chaos. The first thing that we did with Carnies of Chaos was an Alice Cooper tribute show back in 2015.
I was watching those older clips. I'm like, wow, this is absolutely brilliant. Like, I don't think
Thank
I've
you.
ever seen, anything up to this, up to that level before, out of all the bands that, I've, interviewed, bands I've seen live, I don't think anyone has, that amount of theatrics to it. So it was really entertaining how you especially get the audience involved, how we tossing around severed heads over at what was that? The 66 Congress?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was. I mean, it's always been a lot of fun, and that was part of the idea. Was we wanted it to be as fun for the audience as it was for us on stage, and so when we were doing our thing, the call and responses and bringing people on stage and making them part of the show. I was talking to a couple of friends the other day about the same thing, where if you get the crowd involved, all the inhibition that anyone might have had about cheering and going crazy and going nuts just disappears, because now you've got someone that was part of the crowd that was with all these people in on it, and then they go back and now they're all riled up, so they get everyone else riled up, and it just turns into absolute chaos, which was what we were going for. But we had my biggest influence, of course, was like Alice Cooper and those things, and there's tons of shock rockers that came before us that brought us to where we were as far as the theatrics went, and as far as like the scheme of the whole thing and the carnival theme and all that. At least for Carnies of Chaos, now that I'm working solo and going on to my solo stuff, I'm working on theatrics to correlate with the solo career as well. But all with the root notes of taking notes from like Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, In This Moment, Slipknot, all these people that came before me that gave me that gateway to go down that road.
So, like, have you ever like kept in contact with like any of the the venues and whatnot? Because with the whole COVID thing, everything's starting to reopen now again. More and more people are getting vaccinated. So have like any like promoters or venues reached out to your band or were reached out to you directly, I should say?
Right. First, shout out to Pfizer crew real quick. I'm double vax, so I'm good to go back on the road.
During it here, get my second vax at the end of the month.
There you go. Very good. Yeah, I can't stress enough. I mean the importance, and of course everyone has different bodies. They understand how their own bodies work, so I never really pushed anybody for it. But it is. I saw something online that said COVID vaccines are a gateway drug to concerts, and I was like, that's all I want. That's all I want back.
Exactly. After being cooped up in the house for like almost a year and a half, well, I'm ready to get back and start doing going to concerts again.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I did keep in touch with quite a few bands that we used to gig with, quite a few of the venues that we used to play. But the unfortunate thing is that in this like I don't want to say post-pandemic because we're not there yet, but like we're starting to get to the decline, and I noticed that like Brighton Bar, which we used to play all the time, like they're pretty much closed up. I don't think that they are looking at
like. Oh yeah.
So
that's one of the things I was mentioning is like this whole COVID thing. It's going to like cause a tremendous effect among live musicians and live bands because so many people couldn't apply for the PPP loans in time, and then you had bars closing down.
Yeah.
Gussie's, that's one that I was actually speaking to the owner of the bar. I'm like, this was a couple years ago, right after I bought your first CD, Admit One. I had shared it with him, and I'm like, you got to get these guys to play at Gussie's. And then I hear Gussie's get shut down, and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, I know. It's such a shame. A lot of good venues. I know that the Saint in Asbury Park, they were struggling for a really long time, and I don't exactly know what the details behind where they stand now is. Same thing with Brighton Bar. Like they're tentatively closed. Unsure of when they might reopen, but it doesn't look good. And like you said, like a lot of people couldn't apply for the loans, and it's just a real shame that, at the very least, a lot of the local bands are finding ways around it. Like I know that my buddies in Mojo Hand, they're like Southern rock kind of, and they always find like these either like people's backyards if they have like a big backyard and they set up like their own stage and stuff, which I think is awesome. And the like certain outdoor venues and stuff like that. There, people are trying to cope with this post-pandemic world, like what's going to happen next. As for us, like I have a band together for the solo act, and we're working out the songs, but we also want to be able to deliver the best performance possible between the music and the theatrics. So we want to make sure that whatever venue we do go with is able to support all of that.
Yeah, I will say, I was listening to, that tape you sent me, and I like the fact that you chose us a different theme this time. I mean, with your work in Carnies of Chaos, it was like a horror carnival theme. This is more like I guess you can say, a sci-fi type theme. What inspired you to make that switch?
So, I mean, the sci-fi thing has always been kind of a part of it. Like, even with Carnies of Chaos, we talked about, and I know it wasn't really ever elaborated on because, like, we tapered off as we were in production for the second album, and that, we just had the split around that time, so we never got to explain the story of Sally and all that stuff from the Emit 1 album. But basically, like, everyone from the carnival that was in the band were from, like, different dimensions. And KK Reaper was able to hop from dimension to dimension with this, like, he had, like, a scientist friend that helped him build this machine, and he was going from each place, putting together a real deal carnival, but at the same time looking for his Lunar Reaper in a different dimension because the one from his dimension died. And so that's what he finds in Sally, is like, I mean, and the Mistress of the Freak song, which I had written it before we even started the second album for Carnies, but I ended up using that just as a regular track instead of a storyline track. And the original point of Mistress of the Freaks was that KK brought Sally into the circus tent after a second show and explained to her like destiny, her fate, about how she was supposed to be Lunar Reaper, and like she was in this conservative town and her parents were keeping her down, and that's why she wasn't able to fully express that. So that the sci-fi thing is like a transition into the solo career still, because I enjoy horror movies and I enjoy sci-fi and all that weird stuff. Going forward with the space theme, as far as that was concerned, was that after I had left Carnies, and once I was starting to sober up, and I mean, there was a ton of things going on between the band and then my own personal life that was leading me to a lot of drinking habits and just a lot of bad habits in general, just like health-wise. I spoke in a previous interview about how like I had like a nervous breakdown towards the end because I was just losing it. So the space theme kind of correlates with how I was feeling coming out of all that, and how I felt very adrift. And on a new era, the first track is Conception, which is just like a prelude to Orbit. But that sound, that like synthscape that sounds like you're in space, is like what my head sounded like, and that's the first thing that we recorded coming out of Carnies, when Carnies split in November 2019. Right. We split November 2019, and then going into December and then into January, we started working on the new stuff for the solo project. And as I was working on that, as I was like, letting my brain dry out for the first time in like 5-6 years, and like calming down, and I was like, wow, I really feel like I'm in outer space. And so the theme of that was born. I kind of rolled with that, and I was like, I want to make the album reflect, I wasn't even going for that in the first place, but it sort of slowly became that. I was like, oh wow, this is really, as much as it is a story about a sci-fi fictional character, it is like in a parallel to what I was going through at the time.
Yeah. I was listening to that. I'm like, I really like the synth effects of it, and because I like the way you try to bridge the gap between the old album and then your solo career album too. So like, really good transition with the sounds. Now, also, I know you're also a multi-instrumentalist. Like, how many instruments do you exactly play? Like, I mean, I've seen you play, acoustic guitar on stage. So I'm like, All right, well, and I saw in your album credits, I'm like, all right, you were playing all these other instruments too. So
yeah,
I know, and I also know from your 2015 concert, I saw you playing piano. So I'm like, is there anything that this guy can't do?
you made that video, and that was the first time that I had seen, and it was the 2014 Coffee House. It was the one my junior year of high school before I did the one that was the Alice Cooper one that was 2015, and that was the first time I have seen that video easily in like 6-7 years. And so when I saw that at the end of the review that you did, I was like, oh my God, this is so like, it was like a wave of nostalgia. Yeah, so the main instruments that I play are, obviously I do the vocals and stuff. Whether or not you can call me a singer, I don't know. I guess that's subjective.
Your singing's pretty good.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But the other thing is the piano, and so that attributes to anything that you hear on the album as far as the organs, the synths, any regular piano that's in there was all written by me, and then we built on top of that. Usually is how we worked in the flow of things. I know a little bit of guitar and a little bit of bass, enough to be able to riff out things. And that was pretty much how we were going about recording the album, because we recorded it over COVID. So when the lockdown was in full effect, we had to figure out a way to keep the momentum up while still dealing with the fact that we had to all stay in our own homes. And so like $500-600 later, after getting a freaking Scarlett, interface and all that stuff, and getting my home studio set up pretty much, I started recording these like riffs and writing down lyrics and stuff, and then I would send it out to friends of mine that were also musicians, and I was like, can you like elaborate on this, like can you make it a little bit more fine-tuned and better? And that's how I ended up working with, if you look at the credits on A New Era, I mean, like you saw on the EP, the Transmissions from Planet Earth EP, there's a decent sizable list for only 5 songs that are on the EP.
Yeah.
And when we started working on A New Era, I was like, I like the idea that I was able to bring so many people on board. It was like a real collaborative effort. And so each song is like, there was some consistent people, like Chris Tiedemann, my mixing engineer, is also my guitarist on a lot of the tracks. A lot of the bass on this album I did myself, just because I guess as I was recording those bass lines, I started to like practice them, because I really, something about the bass, I don't know what it is. I like that real grungy, thick sound, and I was just like, I really, like Political Bukkake.
Yep.
I was like, I want to do that riff.
I got that song. Because
yeah.
Oh yeah. Let me let you finish. I apologize for interrupting.
Oh no, you're fine. But that was pretty much it. Just the fact that those are my 2 main instruments. The ones outside of that are just basically as defining templates that I then give to other musicians to play on, and that's how we came through the pandemic successful with this album without it having to take another freaking year and a half.
Now that's one of the things I like about Political Bukkake. It kind of goes well with that other song you did, Banging in the Lord's Backyard. Using all the different voice clips from all the different, politicians and, historical figures. Like, now, what inspired you to write that, anyway?
So, that one was written kind of at the height of everything that was going on between the pandemic, pretty much at that point, the 4 years of Trump that we endured, and the fact that, we looked at the 2016 election, and it was Clinton versus Trump, and no matter how you looked at it, I mean, like, the one thing that I thought was really interesting was that you look at some clips and you look at, like, I forget if they had, like, some sort of relationship before the debates, but, like, it was just so, like, cut and dry, wasn't like Trump like a Democrat beforehand or something, or somebody, or
he's been all over the place. Democrat,
right,
Republican, Independent, third party.
Yeah,
he's all over the place.
And same thing with, I mean, like, just about anybody. I mean, like, look at, even with Biden, like, he has to erase so much of his previous work in Congress just to be able to appeal to his current, like, demographic.
Yeah.
And so, like, the whole thing was that I was looking at this, and I was looking at left versus right, and all these people tearing each other apart. And I was like, you know that all these politicians that you're, like, so rooting for are in the back room, you know, having orgies, smoking whatever, doing lines of coke. They're all partying in the same room. Like, they're all part of the same system. Nobody that makes that much money is looking at the common man and like, I got you in mind. Like, I'm going to take care of you. They don't care. So, you know, that was pretty much where that came from. That's why I was I was saying the Trump samples are in there, and then to show true bipartisanship, I put like Clinton in there. Roger Stone is the one that's doing the fuck you, you know, and that interview is really interesting. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but he was on trial for some bullshit. And he was clearly coked out of his mind. Like, he was doing the like the jaw thing and stuff. I was like, this guy's a gremlin. Oh my god. But so, you know, and then I ended up releasing the single version of that on Inauguration Day for Biden's inauguration. So
and that was perfect timing too. Couldn't have asked for better timing.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, that's pretty much all it was. Is that it's a stance of nobody that works like that. Nobody that you see in the mainstream that is going for their candidacy has your best interest at heart. They're all in the back room, you know, despite what they say out in the forefront, they're all in the back room doing their own shit.
They have a public position and a private position, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I just use the metaphor of sex as just the way that the system fucks you, basically. You know, stick it in my Oval Office and don't pull it out. Like, they're constantly fucking you, and that's their game.
Yeah, and I also saw the photo shoot to that. Now, the photo shoot, that was something else. Like, how'd you do all the effects for that? Like, that was. I mean, I don't want to give away too much to those who haven't seen it yet, but it was pretty.
No, because it's actually a really funny story, that one, and it was funny too because I was showing the review again to my mom. And you brought up the photo shoot, and then you started putting up the pictures, and she was like, I don't want to see this.
I'm so sorry.
No.
I didn't mean to get you in trouble like that.
Oh, no, it's great. I find it so funny. I was like, Mom, it's for artistic integrity. And she was like, you can take your artistic integrity and shove it up your ass. But we both had a good laugh about that. It's great. You know, she likes the fact that I'm expressive in my own way, and she understands that it's not like, you know, my number one rule about shock art is that it's not shocking for the sake of being shocking. It's shocking for the point of making a statement. Yep. And so, you know, the same way that the song makes that statement, I wanted the picture to reflect that. And so what I did was, at like 10 o'clock at night, me in full makeup with my bassist Tanner and his girlfriend, who was taking the photos. I took red and blue lighting. We put it in the light fixtures in his room, in his studio, in his home studio. And I said, like, I figured that the good offset would be that it's red, blue, and then me wearing all white in the center. So it was the color of the flags.
Yep.
Right. And
aspect of red versus blue.
Right. Exactly. The contrast and like the purple that meets in the middle of it and stuff. But we went to Walgreens, which was the only place open at the time that we had what we needed. And it was the three of us, me in full garb in these freaking platform boots and all that stuff, my spike mask, and the other two, and the three of us went into there, and all they had for the cum, the semen, was one of those giant ass like refillable bottles of hand soap.
Yep, soft soap or something like that.
Right. And so here we are, the three of us, clearly, like, that was the only thing we bought. So clearly we weren't there because we had an urgent, like, soap shortage, you know? So anyone's guess, you know, like, they're all, the cashier's looking at us like, oh, fuck, like, what the hell is this? And the best part of it was there was a girl in front of us online with a Trump 2020 mask on, and she looked at us with the utmost disgust, like, what in the hell am I witnessing? And I was like, yeah. I was like, be shocked. But we got back there and we did, like, you know, a couple of shots. We wanted to make it feel like it was a real casting couch, and that's why there's a couple of shots in that photo shoot of just me on the couch, yeah, looking sort of like confused and like not sure about my position here. And then as the photo shoot progresses, I'm in the fishnets and getting more comfortable with myself, so to speak, and you know, the box of tissues that was perfectly placed on the table. And I apologize for the freaking box thing. I don't know why that keeps happening, but just bear with me. Ignore that.
It doesn't even bother me.
Okay. Yeah, so we were doing the photo shoot, and finally it came time for the cum. And so I said I wanted Tanner's hand to be perfectly placed in my mouth as if it was a POV, as if he was filming like a you know, like
POV like type of movie.
Yeah, but like specifically, like, you know, when politicians get caught in the, you know, like something leaks on them, you know, like Anthony Weiner when he sent the dick pic to whatever, and you know, I wanted it to look something real, like gringy, gritty like that. And the idea behind it too was that it's indiscriminate because you associate the suit part of the sleeve with the white shirt underneath with like a position of power, especially. Yep. Right, like you just associate it with a politician, but it's indiscriminate. You don't know left, right, or anything. So that was another factor that we took into play. But you know, the last thing that we did was I actually asked Tanner to take the soap bottle and thrust it onto me so it would look realistic in the way that it landed. And he did that, and we got a good couple of shots of that. And then I was like, you know what? We've got this whole thing of soap. Let's just go crazy with it. And that's why if you look at, the last couple of shots were just like, I was drenched in it, and I had the freaking color contacts in, and it started getting in my eyes and mouth, and I was like, this is absolutely awful. But it was worth it for like the last couple of shots to just be real, like over the top and obscene. But again, you know, everything's with a purpose. It's not for the sake of just being shocking. It's for the sake of like getting a point across through shock art, and that's why we did it the way we did.
It really did get its point across. Like I caught like all of the, you know, the messages with all of that.
Right.
Now another thing that another song I want to talk about. This one comes off of the Admit One album, "Banging in the Lord's Backyard." I can't even tell you how many times I've played that song and how relevant it is. Like, I don't think that song is ever, you know, going to age terribly. Because, you know, that stuff you see all the time. Like, it's been like, what, 2 years since I've heard that song. And it seems like every day, you know, you catch politicians and, you know, people within, you know, certain, you know, areas of power and being hypocrites.
As far as Bangin' went, the funny thing about, well, so I will say this, we do intend to re-record Bangin' for the solo stuff. So I want to give that like the proper production that it deserved. And, you know, like it was good for what it was on the Admit One album was good for what it was because it was our first time out. It was a learning experience for all of us. We had never gone into like a studio to record before. And it was good in the regards that it was punk and it sounded like a live show and it sounded raw. And that was what we were going for because the storyline of it was that it was all taking place inside this small carnival on the outskirts of town. And so in that regard, like the raw sound, like, and that's what I noticed that a lot of people seem to like that, which as somebody who likes a lot of production is just a little surprising to me, but I'm glad that like it went over so well. But the idea is that we want to keep that same rawness, but we're just going to hype up the production value a little bit when we do it for my solo career. And that's probably going to be, we already started working on the second album. And that song is probably going to end up being on the third album because we want to make the third album a very like 80s glam rock-esque album.
I'm liking the sound of this so far.
Right. But the story behind it is not so it's not so much a message to anything in particular. I mean, the idea behind it was that in the same way that Political is about not being against like America as a whole, but being against corruption and not being against all politicians, but being against corrupt politicians. Bangin' was about not being against Christianity or not being against religion as a whole, but being against organized religion and being against corruption in the churches.
Yep.
And the hypocrisy of, like you said, like if you love who you love, that shouldn't be classified as a sin. And especially considering that, I grew up Catholic and Catholicism has constantly changed to appease with the times because it's a money grab for the church. And if you're not preaching what the majority wants to hear, which is, at this point, like, for example, sex before marriage, how that was like a huge thing and divorce was a huge thing. And now all of a sudden, like, they've loosened the reins because they realize that it's a lot more common now.
Everyone's
and so, but like the Bible doesn't change. So like that's a hypocritical move on their part just to get you back in the door so you'll put more money in the donation box. And I do think that to some degree, I guess like the other side of it too is that they're just trying to figure out how to be more accepting in the church. But I mean, it's a double-edged sword depending on where you go. Like, I've been to certain, gatherings, and I've been friends with Christian people who genuinely believe that, like, it's just not true, that, like, certain things are just taken out of context from the Bible, and that, if you're a good person, that's all that should matter, is that you're a good person. And then you get the other side of it that's just like, nope, buy the book, this is how it is, and, whatever helps you sleep at night. But the personal side of that was that it was based on true events that happened to me in Staten Island and Newport Beach when I was really young and I was still figuring out my sexuality and all that. And I, eventually came to terms with the fact, because again, as a Catholic, as I started to realize that I was gay, I was looking at, the Bible and being like, oh, well, it doesn't matter how good a person I am, I'm going to go to hell anyway. And that's what kind of, as I got older and I started to realize how ridiculous that sounded, I was like, all right, this is what's driving me a little bit away from the narrative there. But, so I was in Newport Beach and I had a couple of friends like all around the block in that area. And one of them was not gay, but like not sure about himself. And so we used to basically, like, I would go there and on the weekends or during the summer or whatever, and like he would come to me when it was just one-on-one and the rest of our friends had gone home, and things would happen, whatever, like that's the whole tale. Obviously, like, the lyrics will give you more insight as to what exactly happened, but that's one of the times that happened. I think actually the first time, which would have been not to be too personal, but like when I lost my virginity, was behind that church down the block from us.
Wow.
And so that whole song is basically about that experience right down to the T, even when the solo's playing and like my dad calls over the phone. Yep. Like that happened in real life. But that was true events, and that was something that like I had to like, he was where he was, and I was like, shut up. I was like, my dad's on the phone, like, shut the fuck up. And so, obviously, like, it's a little exaggerated when he's like, what's that? Like, he never knew, thank God. But he, that he did call, and that was like part of the thing I wanted to add into the solo part of the song, because I was like, that's how it all played out. That's how I believe.
Now I know why that's my favorite. Because like, You can tell that you put a lot of work into writing that. Like,
right.
I mean, the fact that it's
the funny thing about it too is that I never thought, as we were writing songs, like, I mean, not to say that we didn't put time and effort into that song, because I did, like, once we started writing the rhythms and stuff, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I dig this. Like, I like, you know, I'm a big 80s fanatic, so I love the 80s sound that it had.
It has, like, a bluesy sound to it, too, so.
Right. And, you know, that's all, like, mishmashed into, like, just rock and roll overall. But, yeah, like, you know, it's all tied in. And when I was writing the lyrics, I was struggling on certain things because I wanted to be a little bit more inconspicuous. Like, I didn't want to give any names or anything like that. Like, I didn't want to be too specific, otherwise it would have given away the guy that was involved. And I never thought that after we wrote that song, especially after writing other songs like Ain't No Race and Home Is Where the Haunt Is and doing all those live, I never thought that Bangin' was going to be like the #1 hit out of it. I never thought a song about my sex life would be the song that everyone's singing along to at our shows.
But yeah, that song has actually gotten a lot more popular than what I had thought. Like, I'm seeing, like, videos of, like, YouTubers reacting to it, and, like, other people, like, trying to cover the song. So
yeah, it's wild. And I mean, I love that so much. I love the fact that you know, we were never and I mean, even to this day, like with my solo stuff, like, it's not like we're so larger than life scale that you would think that those things happen. And when they do, and you see people doing, like, covers, and you see people wearing your face paint and all that stuff, I mean, it's so, like, humbling. I can't thank those people enough for being so supportive to my art and to what I'm doing.
So, once touring begins, which will probably be either late next year or possibly, maybe best case scenario, earlier in the summer, you plan on taking the show to, like, different states and whatnot? Like, I know I saw you in New York, but I'm not sure if you did any, like, gigs in Pennsylvania or South Jersey. Trenton, we have a few bars in Trenton.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the best known ones is the Champions right off Chambers Street in Trenton. That's where.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to. I mean, that's the natural progression of things. Is it's eventually going to be that. Like, we're eventually going to get to the point where we can tour out of state and we can go to different parts of, you know, obviously New Jersey's very big. Like, right now we're kind of in the central area because we work out of Monmouth County. And we want to be able to, like, the reason that Carnies went to New York was because we were offered it by promoters that had seen us play in New Jersey.
Reginald, my boy.
Right, yeah, right, exactly, yep. So if those people see that same sort of spark in the show for the KK Reaper solo band and see potential in it to be able to ask us to come out, we'll gladly do it, and we'll gladly go, like, wherever we're needed, basically. But for now, just given the COVID times and all that stuff, you know, that's kind of putting a kibosh on bigger plans as it stands right now. Like I said, even just the fact that we have so many theatrics in mind that we want to attach to the show with the music, and we don't want to sacrifice too much, so we have to still be able to find venues that can support that. And same thing goes for, like, if we want to go out of state or if we want to go South or North Jersey or wherever. It's just got to be places that, A, can accommodate us, and B, aren't going to be, like, sticklers about, you know, how many tickets we sell and stuff like that. Because that's one thing that I noticed when we were playing with Carnies, was that I was losing a lot more money than we were making because it was a lot of pay-to-play places. And doing that in our area was fine because we had people local that knew us and wanted to come see us. But the moment you go out to another state that's not familiar with you the same way that your local, like, hometown is, it becomes that much harder to draw that crowd. When we did Knitting Factory in Brooklyn, the promoter gave us X amount of tickets and was like, you have to sell X, you know, like, this many. and we sold like a few, but I ended up paying out of pocket like $100-$200 for like the rest of the tickets. And I was like, of course I wasn't able to sell it because nobody in Brooklyn had heard of us yet. We were just like very ambitious at the time, and I think that we kind of pushed ourselves a little thinner, that we spread ourselves a little thinner than we probably should have at certain points. But I mean, live and learn, and I think that it was good because we made those connections even with like other bands from Brooklyn. We made a few connections with people there that told their friends and stuff like that. So it's very much like spend money to make money in that regard. But if we could do that in a more cohesive manner and not just running out and like just taking any show that we can get, I think that that'll be like the more proper move. Right now, the way that we're looking at it is doing like 2 major shows that we run. Like I would be the one renting out the location and doing 2 of those in a month, and then doing a off month where it's like opener shows and like where it's not as critical for us to sell tickets, just to make more fans, like get a bigger fan base going. And during that off month where we're just doing opener shows and stuff, do all the publicity, do like interviews, reviews, photo ops, videos, all that stuff, and then the following month just repeat that cycle.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that I've been trying to do. Like, is people that are interested in listening to shock rock, new bands, those that are other local musicians. I've been trying to share as much of that work as possible. I mean,
right.
Like the review I did. I posted on like several punk rock forums. On Facebook. I shared it to like all of my other punk rock friends on Twitter, and actually some of them actually did check it out. So it's like drops in a bucket, but it is still something, because someone eventually is going to look at it and then share it, and then they're going to check out your Bandcamp or your music.
Yeah. Drops in a bucket will eventually fill the pail. It's not not all for naught in that regard. The good thing about that, and I appreciate that you do this, and I appreciate that you're sharing the stuff and that you dig it. A lot of people don't realize how important that is, especially now in today's current music world, that like sharing your like local artists and like sharing people that you actually enjoy listening to and you enjoy what they the effort that they put into their work. And I mean that goes for just any type of art, but specifically in the music scene, when music is coming out so rapidly and everyone is a musician now because you can work from home, and people are figuring out that they can work from home. Yep. If you find somebody that really resonates with you, and if you really like my stuff, share the hell out of it and put it wherever you can, and share it with your friends. Annoy them if you have to. Get them into it. It's really that's.
Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to talk about the merch too, because I saw you had that was a pretty creative idea. 6 feet away or 6 feet under. I'm like, that is brilliant. Thanks.
That's actually the second album, which, like I said, we're currently working on now that A New Era is pretty much done. Is called The New Normal, and it's going to take off directly from where A New Era ends, where the General and his crew are looking for KK Reaper, and so is that kid Tommy that was trying to transmit to him. And once Tommy, that character, gets KK and gets him away from the General who's like searching for him and all that, KK, while he's in the car all dinged up and beat up from crash landing onto Earth, he puts him in the car and he's talking to the kid, and he says so what's been going on with Earth lately? And then it goes into all the songs that are just regular songs, the same way that this album is set up, where it's storyline, regular songs, and then more storyline. It's going to be that same progression, and all the songs are about the past year and a half. It's pretty much like an homage to the craziness that has gone on. So the songs that we have so far that we are working on is Social Distance, which is going to be kind of where the mask comes in. That was kind of the idea behind that. and Attack of the Killer Karens, Protect and Serve with 3 Ks, and I can't remember the rest of that. I don't want to give too much away, but
don't spoil too much.
But you get the idea. Like it was the idea of like kind of recapping everything that's gone on, and so I want to, with that second album, make a merch pack that is all like a pandemic survival kit.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. And also another thing, forgot to mention this earlier. Music videos. You guys plan on doing any music videos for a new era?
So actually, this coming Saturday, if everyone's schedules are aligned, we're actually shooting the second part of the Mistress of the Freaks music video, which is the footage that I had previously shot for the cutaways, like B-roll, of my friend Luna Reaper, who is she's the woman on the cover of the single, in the coffin. She is playing the Mistress of the Freaks in the music video, and I shot some footage with her, and I edited it recently to try and see like where to go from here. And the footage that I got came out so nice with the 1920s film grain and the black and white, and I've got like a reel by reel like border around it, and all the stuff we shot with like in the cemetery. I had her like holding roses, and I poured fake blood all over the roses and stuff, and it just looked really eerie, very like spooky the way that the song is. It was like a very good representation, good visual representation of what the song is. So I'm very excited about that. If all the bandmates are together and cooperative on Saturday morning, we'll be able to get the shot of the band playing the song, put that in, and then I got to get a couple other extra like B-roll shots of like the ghouls in the graveyard and all that stuff, and it'll be good to go. I'm hoping to release that the same day that the digital release of the album drops, June 25th.
I'm psyched about that. Oh boy. So what other plans you guys have on the docket?
That's pretty much, like we're trying to push as much as we can and keep going and keep the momentum going. But again, one of the critical points of advertising an album is live shows. And until we start figuring out how to go about that the proper way, because again, we also want to take into account like guidelines. We want to take into account that we want all our fans to feel safe, And even though COVID's dying down, there are still some that are like not so comfortable with like just open field concerts where like people are squished together, and so we're trying to take all those things into account and try to be respectful of our fans. And so outside of that, we were just talking about everything else that we can possibly do to like advertise and promote and all that between. Photo shoots. We really want to do photo shoots with the whole band and not just myself, so we can kind of put it out there like who's who, and start creating lore around them. The music video, which we do have plans to possibly turn a new era into like a movie and do it like in segments. So we want to do basically like a music video for each song, but they're all going to correlate and basically form to make a whole film.
Now that sounds interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely like the
You don't really see people doing that much these days. They might make one or two music videos about one of their hit songs or another song off their album. Very rarely you see someone do an entire music video saga that features every track. So
right, yeah. It's definitely, that's the whole thing is that, and I've been saying this for so long now, is that, again, with everyone that thinks that they're I shouldn't say that they think they are musicians. Everyone that is a musician these days that can so easily make content and put it out at at their disposal. Like they can just go on what I do, like on CD Baby, and just put out whatever they want. And CD Baby collects all their royalties for them. The thing is that in today's market, you have to do things that really put you apart from all those people. And there's a lot of people have that same idea, and a lot of people put out all these crazy things. But that's one of the things that I'm like so dedicated to make happen. So that way, like, KK Reaper is something that you're like, whoa, like that guy's doing things that I've never heard of, I've never seen, and just keep rolling with that, because for better or for worse, if it's different, people will gravitate to it regardless,
So, like, any other bands like that you would like recommend to me or any of my listeners? Whether it be bands you've toured with, bands that you haven't toured with or wish you wanted to tour with, other.
Right.
I don't mean like big bands, like other local bands, I should say.
Yeah. So I mean, some of my best friends and some of the best musicians that we played with, the Mary Lou's, I freaking adore. The Mary Lou's came out with a full-length album not that long ago. I think like it might have been last year, like early last year or something like that. Every song on there is a bop. They're part of my Halloween playlist. So, I take my Halloween playlist very seriously. I only put the finest in there. But them, Elephant Killer's a great time. They're really, like, I like their music, but the live show gets you going. The live show makes you feel like you're just on, like, all the drugs at once. And that's all you want to be, is, like, right in that moment. And they're great backstage, too, let me tell you. One recent band that I've been in talks with that I would really love to be able to play with at some point and like bring over to the States is Silver Lynx. And right now they only have 2 singles out on like streaming services. But if you go on their profiles and their Instagram and Facebook and all that, you can find videos of them doing like 80s cover, like 80s glam rock and 80s glam metal covers and their own songs and stuff like that, all mixed together. I forget exactly where they're from. Something, I think, South American. But I talked to them because I said, like, I love your guys' stuff. I would really like to hook you up with my producers, because Tiedman from Secret Sauce Studios and Tanner, my bass player, who now has T-Chase Home Studios, they're my mixing and mastering engineers, and they're the only reason that any of my stuff sounds good. Like, they are the sole reason that stuff sounds as pristine as it does, and I highly recommend them to anybody especially for the price. I mean, they're so great with what they do, and it's a great price for what they do. And I was talking to Silver Lynx, and I was like, I'd love to like get you guys on board with them, because they were saying that like over where they are, rock and roll is appreciated, but like the engineers over there don't necessarily always understand how to make it pop.
How to like mix it properly.
Right. It's still like, fairly, I don't know what they're working with over there and stuff. They mentioned that, and I was like, just like send us the stems and we'll edit it for you, and then we'll figure out the payment later, obviously, because whatever the money transfer is between what they're using and what we're using would have to be figured out. But I was like, hell, I'll do it for free. Like, I'll pay my engineers to work with you guys. That's how much I like those guys.
I definitely gotta check them out, because I'm always like in the mood to like discover new bands and whatnot. After, like I said, being cooped up for like almost an entire year. Not being able to go to shows. What little shows I did have plans for all got canceled. So yeah, I'm just ready. Yeah, well, that's ready to get back to the swing of things. Start doing actual reviews again. Yeah, it's tough to come out of what we've been through these past like couple of years and just get right back on it, So I noticed a lot of content creators that have kind of like slowed their roll, just because I said it in the interview with All Gains the other day. Don't beat yourself up. Yeah, and this goes to anyone that's a content creator. Like, don't beat yourself up if you didn't really make a whole lot over the pandemic, because the time that we had was so stress-inducing. It's hard to be creative in that time. Like you can't. The creative juices can't flow if all you're thinking about is this the day that the world ends? Because that's what it felt like this entire year and a half. But I do think that was. I think it is a silver lining that now that things are starting to open up and people are starting to make things again, and we're seeing a surge in
all these bands that are starting to pop up and people that are trying to make music and trying to put it out and trying to do live shows. The best thing that's going to happen, I think, and I hope, is that people who have been cooped up in their house for a year and a half now, when the venues start opening up, your local venues are going to be packed all the time because people are going to look for an excuse to go out every single day. And that means that all these local bands are finally going to get the recognition they deserve, and maybe we'll bring rock and metal back to the mainstream.
That's what I'm hoping. That's like the end goal for me.
Right. I know when you were trying to schedule this, I know you were saying like you were trying to figure out like what a good time was. I didn't want to put like any pressure on you. I knew that once the album was done and once we started getting to the point that we were getting ready to move forward with it, like, you know, June 25th, it's like right around the corner. I was like, I really want to get on Satanic Panic so we could, like, you know, promote it a little bit and talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't reach out to you earlier, because, like, I believe me, I've been trying, but, like, when you're, like, surrounded by a bunch of, you know, people that either don't show up or don't want to show up, and I'm like, all right, damn, now I have to put on my superhero cape and save the day.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I totally understand. It's no worries. That's the one thing I will say I don't miss is and now, you know, with the pandemic funds are like slowly starting to run out from like unemployment and all that jazz. So I'm gonna have to go back to work. I'm like dreading it because after a year of basically not doing anything but music, I'm like, I don't know how to rotate back into the real world again. But you know, at least it gave me the time to make the album, because if I was doing everything I was doing and then working, I don't think that this would have been done this quickly. And that's saying a lot.
Like 16-track album, that takes a lot of time too.
Yeah, and the physical copies are 20 tracks. The 4 bonus tracks on the physical copies as you know, an incentive to buy the physical copies. But yeah, that was I jumped in headfirst into that one, not realizing what I was getting myself into. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. You know, that's like the average length of an album these days. And I was like, I could pump that out, no problem. And then just literally everything under the sun between like my grandmother passing away and like there was a couple of times that I did like not that, you know, like I drink here and there now, like occasionally, and I like party and whatever. But like there was a few times where I went like a little too hard. And like it took a little while to recover from that because I was like, oh boy, like this feels like square one again, you know?
Yeah, I am so sorry about that.
No, I mean, you know, it's just it was my own stupidity, you know? I should have dealt with my problems when they arose, and instead of doing that, I chose to hit the bottle so that way they would just disappear for the time being. But then I would wake up and they were still there. So it was like, you know, I was just torturing myself at that point. I was prolonging the inevitable.
So, as for your new album release, what formats are you going to release, Moon? I know I saw the vinyl. I wasn't sure if was there a cassette. I'm not sure if there was.
Yeah. So the idea behind that is right now, I'm doing the pre-sales because I want to make, pretty much at this point in the game, like physical copies are a little bit of a dead medium. And so if you're just a artist starting out, it doesn't make a lot of financial sense to produce that way. Like you want to be able to make your money back on the product that you're making. So, you know, with a digital release, it only costs like $100 to do it digitally on like all platforms, and you just release those songs, and then you just make your revenue back as people listen to it. Oh crap! Hold on one.
Uh-oh. I think we lost KK Reaper. Uh-oh. Well, this would look good on, you know, the, well, you know how my show is. I always do the whole lo-fi type theme, so this really does fit in with the theme. You know, I always try to make my videos look glitchy, and this is an actual glitch. I'm not making this up. Okay, it's set area data.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, that's all right.
Can you hear me?
No, you're perfect, loud and clear.
Okay.
I'm not going to complain about that because I love the whole glitchy effects, and plus it's going to look good once I upload the final clip. I always try to put in a few glitches, you know, especially when I'm doing, you know, videos. So.
Yeah, if you have to, you know, like if you can like edit and stuff, I'm sure you could do something with that. The battery on the camera that is connected to the live gamer thing is like overheating. Oh. And that's why it's like turning off. So I you know, you got me pretty much until this thing does that again, and I'm just gonna have to like turn it off for, you know, a minute or two and turn it back on. Oh, and just real quick on the recap of the physical copies. I was saying the game plan right now is we have enough pre-sales, I think, to do the CDs, and so we're gonna get those made hopefully soon. It'll probably be released a little bit after the digital release date. And we will, you know, that one has the 4 bonus tracks and a booklet with all the lyrics in it and some artwork and all that.
Artwork. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who does all the artwork for that? Because I will admit, because like you have good artwork on Admit 1. You know, the editing and the stuff you did for the your EP, that was pretty good. I still got the poster you sent me.
Right.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. The stuff that I have is like I usually team up with some local photographers, and they do the shots, and then, you know, they'll do their like fine-tune edits to make it look like pristine, and then I'll take it and make it look gritty. So like for the A New Era album artwork, that was actually Nick Librero with Snaggletooth Productions. He does music videos, pictures, like you name it, as far as behind the camera and editing, like After Effects, logos, all that stuff. Highly recommend. Great pricing for the amount of work that he does. He's phenomenal at what he does. And he did the first KK Reaper solo photo shoot, and that picture of me standing like that on the album was taken outside of some old rustic church doors in Keyport, and I just took a space background, I kaleidoscoped it, and then I made my picture translucent on top of that, and like darkened it and did all the editing and stuff like that. So that's kind of like the trade-off there. I get like the pristine photos from the photographers I work with, and then for the publicity aspect of it, if I'm doing it for like an album cover or like inner artwork on like the inner sleeves or anything like that, I usually doctor it up to look a certain way for that.
No matter what album it is, whether it's this or whether it's Admit 1, I was always impressed with the artwork.
Thank you. Yeah, that's.
Who did the artwork for Admit 1? I don't think I asked. I don't ask about that.
My friend Marissa was the one who actually did it for us, and she was a blessing that entire time because we had certain members in the band who were riding me to ride her ass. And I was like, guys, like, she's an artist. She's working on the art. She can only go so fast. Like, relax. And they kept, like doing that. And so I told her what they were saying. And I was like, listen, I'm not the one saying that. Like, this is all them. And she was like, you know, like, for fuck's sake, like, you know, I'm working. And the work that she did, like, I didn't want to rush her because, like, the work that she did was phenomenal for what we wanted. Right. I was like, you can't run, you know, if she rushes it, it might not come out to the standards that we're hoping it would come out to be. And, you know, she's not like I don't know if she does commissions, truthfully. I know that she did it for me because we're best friends, and, you know, I love her to death for it and for putting up with my bandmates at the time for, you know, being such a hassle with it. But yeah, you know, like it was great work, both front and back. I told her exactly what I wanted. I told her the storyline and why the rope hanging out the window and all that stuff. So she appreciated it as much as I appreciated her making the artwork for it.
That was amazing artwork for there. Because I'm like, currently, I mean, it perfectly lines up with everything that you mentioned on that entire album. Between, you know,
Right.
between, I think you see the two people in the front, I don't know if that's Sally and, you know, her boyfriend or somebody like that. And then, you know, like I said, like you said, the rope hanging out the window.
So the original artwork was supposed to include a car coming out of the driveway from where the house was, because that was going to be Sally's parents coming to the circus tent. Yeah. And we didn't end up going with that just because it took up too much space and it looked too cluttered. But the two people in the front walking up to the circus tent is, in fact, Sally. And the guy is a character that we called Ferris, who was going to be more relevant on the second album. He was sort of like KK's second in command, and then when Sally became more of KK's priority, he starts getting jealous and starts trying to sabotage KK out of like spite. And the character of Ferris is the guy in Sally's exit when he's like, "Hey man, you're hurting her." That's that guy from the front of the album.
Wow.
And the reason that he's with Sally is he's the one that goes up to Sally and convinces her to sneak out that night because it's her birthday, and because KK sent him on that mission knowing very well like who he was after. The whole thing was like KK knew Sally was there before he even set up the circus tent. And so he knew how to plan this all, and that's why at the end of Ending of Carnival, when he's like, or at the end of Sally's exit, when he's like, "This is all going according to plan. Just trust me." It's because he knew that this is how this was going to play out from the get-go.
This must have taken an incredible amount of time to write.
Oh yeah, that was the all the more disheartening part about when we had to split, and you know, it was just, again, like I always say, it was just not. It wasn't the best of terms. You know, it was like anything else, like any sort of other breakup with like a boyfriend or girlfriend. It felt like that, you know, like it was just bitter, bittersweet, so to speak. You know, like we all went off to do our own separate things after that, but we all did sort of like Carnies for what it was on the stage and in the albums, but in the studio and behind stage, it was just, we didn't mesh well. You know, but
they're all like still involved in music, or did they all quit, or like?
Yeah, well, I think that the solo KK Reaper stuff is taking like a more, even though we're like nose to the grind, it's mostly like just me doing nose to the grind, and I'm just telling these guys like, you know, here's what we can do. Like, would you like to do that? And it's a little bit more democratic now, and so the drummer Cardiac and my bass player Tanner, like they were Carnies members that came back, you know, so we continued on to do that. They do still do like some side projects, but now they're kind of like focused on the KK Reaper solo stuff, and yeah, that's pretty much where we're at now, which I'm happy with. Now I've got my guitarist Eric, who is great guitar player. We found him purely by circumstance. We were looking for a guitarist, and we had reached out to him, and he said like, "I don't have anything currently going on, so I would love to try out and try for this." And he just fell in love with the whole storyline, the idea of it, the concept. And Marissa, who is our keyboardist now, and like sample pad and all that jazz, pretty much like the show girl. She runs the show while she's doing the keyboards, and she'll be handing me the props and all that. And she was someone who originally tried out for Carnies, and then when like that was close to the end of where Carnies split. So after Carnies split, I reached out to her again, and I was like, "Would you like to do the solo project?" And I showed her some of the stuff that we had already worked on. She was like, "I love it. I'd love to, be a part of that as well." So that's where we're at now.
I'm just glad to know that you guys are, haven't quite given up on music. 'Cause, you have some people that, will break up with a band, and then they're like, it messes up their spirits, and they're like, I don't feel like playing anymore and whatnot. And speaking of band breaks, what do you think of that whole Megadeth situation? I'm not sure if you are all too familiar.
The bass player that got kicked out?
Yeah. I've heard so many different stories about it. Some people are saying, "Oh, well, Dave Mustaine was wrong," Other people are saying,
Right.
you know, Dave Ellefson was wrong. I honestly don't know which side to believe.
It's funny because I was actually with a friend last night, and we were talking over a couple of drinks, and he and I were. He brought that up. He's more of a Megadeth fan than I am. I like their stuff. I just don't. I'm not as familiar with the band members and all that stuff. But as I found out, so I saw the post on Facebook, their official statement from the Megadeth page, and the way that it's worded sounded like they were already trying to part ways with this guy, and this was just like the final kicker. Even though, all right, so what I've come to find about that part of it is that he cheated on his wife, which is fucked, but it's his own personal life. Has nothing to do with us. The whole grooming and all that stuff, all those allegations were squashed. So really the only thing that they have a leg to stand on in terms of firing him at this point is the fact that he cheated on his wife. And the fact that clearly they did not have very good blood with him to begin with. Because apparently I found out through my buddy that he sued them way back when. For, I don't know, X amount of money. He left of his own accord from Megadeth as the LLC, the band, the brand of it, and then sued them for whatever amount of money, and then joined them again. And supposedly they were back on civil terms at that point. But whatever the case may have been, I can't imagine that went well after the fact. That's like getting a divorce, taking half of your spouse's money, and then getting married to them again.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that there's more to it than we're seeing. I don't think that the allegations really have anything to do with it now, because it seems like they're squashed. It seems like he was in bounds in terms of that, besides the whole cheating on his wife thing, but there's nothing illegal about that. It's just,
it's a messed up thing to do, but it's not like pure evil stuff,
Right. I also think that the woman involved, I can't fathom what was possibly going through her head when she was let me send these dick pics to my friend.
Yep. And then she expected that it wouldn't get leaked out.
Right, yeah. If you're gonna show your friend, go to at the very least, go to their house and show it on your phone. Don't send it to them.
Yep.
Well, once they have the file, that's it. Yep. That's all over the place.
One person sees it, and then it gets shown to the whole world.
Yeah, no, that's wild. I don't know why she thought that was going to end well. And then even we tried to go to her Instagram to figure out if she had anything more to say on the story, and it's a private account now, and in the bio it says stop sending me follow requests. So clearly she's gotten some backlash for it herself, but yeah, I definitely think it just sounds based on what I know, and I think Tanner has met the guy before, and at where we actually recorded him at One Absolute Music here in Hazlitt, and I'm pretty sure the guy that owns Absolute Music is friends with that bass player. So he came in to record something, and Tanner tried talking with him and stuff, and he said it was just very what's the word? Lack of personality, kind of just
man.
Yeah, staunchy, So if he's like that to just a general person that's a fan of Megadeth, I can only imagine what he's like with Megadeth. So if that's the case, or whether or not, who knows? Maybe Dave Mustaine is the issue. Maybe Dave Mustaine is more of a jerk in that situation and just wanted him out for his own personal thing, and he's just using this as a, one way or another. I don't think it's the allegation. I think it's purely just band dispute that turned real ugly real fast.
I just really hope that the band isn't hurt by this, and that this doesn't
Well, the band is basically just Dave Mustaine and a bunch of other guys at this point, because they've gone. Damn.
Oh crap! I think I did it again.
Sorry that keeps happening.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep making the camera overheat. I apologize.
No, it's fine. It honestly shouldn't even be doing that. It's just the fact that I've beaten the shit out of it, I'm pretty sure. Like, I think it's my own fault. But, yeah, as far as that stuff goes, you know, and that, like, segues also into just cancel culture in general, and, like, all the things that have been coming out just about everybody. And, like, you know, some of it's true, like, that unfortunately, and, you know, like, I still love Marilyn Manson as the character, but, like, Brian Warner as the person.
That tore me up when I heard allegations about that. Like, because Marilyn Manson, he's like one of the celebrity Satanists. He's like pretty much the Satanist that everyone goes to.
He's the prime minister.
Yeah. He is an ordained minister within the Satanic Church.
Right.
But yeah, when I heard about that and heard how, you know, he was mistreating all these women, I'm like, well, now he's pretty much making Satanists look bad. And, you know,
well, yeah. Although he's never, you know, he hasn't really had that association since like the 90s. You know, it kind of died out when he started making albums like freaking Eat Me, Drink Me and High and Low and all that. That's when he started becoming like a sad boy. And that was like a diverge from his like satanic image, and then he tried to bring it back with the double crosses and stuff, but by that point he was just such a mess. It was like, now you just look bad in general, you know. Like, I hate to say that, and I hate to be so like bitter about it, but it was like, that's the one thing that I can honestly see and look at and be like, he probably did it. Like, you know, he's a twisted enough guy that I wouldn't doubt that. You know, again, it kills me to say it, but it's just like between the albums and like all the context and the high end, the Long Hard Road Out of Hell book and like the things that describes, like it doesn't seem too far-fetched to believe, and especially with so many cases of it coming out, you know. But yeah, some of the people that they try to nail for certain things that are just very clearly like, I don't know if you're a fan of Ninja Sex Party or like Game Grumps or anything like that. Okay, but the whole thing that came out on Reddit about Danny Sexbang or whatever his name is, there was the whole allegation against him that he was like grooming this girl and like he ended up like sleeping with her and then just left. And the truth of it was that came out because she finally got so much backlash and finally said like, no, it's not true. Basically, she was butthurt because, and I mean rightfully so, because it was a dick move, but it wasn't illegal, was that he like made her feel good. They slept together for a weekend and then he booted out like a regular rock star. You know, so not to say that it's cool, like it's not a cool thing to do, but it's also, again, it's not illegal. The same thing as the friggin' bass player from Megadeth. Like, it's not illegal what he's doing. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to appreciate that, but like it's not reason enough for me to stop listening to those people. And it's certainly not reason enough to, you know, cast them aside completely.
Yeah, try and destroy their, you know, lives or something like that over it.
Right, yeah. And it's so easy today now, especially with freaking Twitter and all these people who think they're owed something, that, you know, you can't be human and an artist now. You have to be like,
yeah, like they expect you to be perfect. Like,
right. Like you have to be like a godly altruist and never do anything wrong ever as an artist in order for people to think that that's what you're warranted of.
And that's the sad thing, because, you know, because they act like you can't learn and struggle and grow. Like the same, like I can guarantee you right now, the person that I am today, I probably wasn't the same person that you met that people knew like when I was 16, and I'm like, or 16 or 17. I'm like 27 right now. I know I did a lot of growing. I know I've changed my opinion on a lot of things. You know, I've learned a lot of things. So.
And that's again, like that's life, and you never stop growing, and so you never stop learning, and that's like the worst thing in the world is, that's my whole thing, is that if it's a repeat offense, if this is somebody who has like a pattern behavior and they're just not changing, that's one thing. Like, you can cancel somebody for perpetually being a dick. If the guy, if it's like a band full of neo-Nazis and they're constantly doing neo-Nazi shit, don't listen to them. Don't support that. But if it's somebody who, like, I don't know, like, if somebody used like the F-bomb, like talking about a gay person, and they were like one of my favorite artists, but they did that like 20 years ago, and like an audio clip just resurfaced, I'm not gonna penalize them for that.
Exactly. I mean, if they learned their lesson and they apologize, and they become a better person, then there's really no reason to just keep hounding at it. If they were still doing that same thing, then I could understand, but
Yeah, well, that's the same thing that happened to oh my god, what the hell's her name? The female cook on she got her show canceled because somebody dug up.
Paula Deen?
Paula Deen, yeah. She dropped the N-bomb like way back when. They found the audio clip. She apologized, and that should have been the end of it. But instead, they took away her entire livelihood for that one mistake. Even after she apologized. And that was just like, they were like, all right, she's gone. That's it. I was like, how can you just take away that person's livelihood like that? Exactly. Especially, again, if she came out and was like, no, I'm not sorry for that. That's still how I feel. Then I'd be like, yeah, like cut the bitch out. But, right. But yeah, I mean, if somebody is willing to learn, you're only going to make that person worse by berating them even after they've learned their lesson. They're gonna learn their lesson. You're gonna berate them, and then they're gonna be like, "All right, well, I guess learning my lesson doesn't matter, so I'm just gonna go back to
go back to being, a terrible person again."
Right, exactly. So, that's my hot take on freaking cancel culture. It drives me nuts when I go on.
Well, you're not the only one. I think secretly a lot of people feel the same way that we feel about this whole cancel culture thing.
Yeah, right. It's like anything else. The people that are obnoxiously loud about it make it seem like they're the majority because they're so loud about it. But I think that most people are just normal and can understand these basic concepts about humanity. But then you get those few assholes that are so loud about it and keep tweeting about it and keep tweeting about it. And eventually, you get like the sheeple that are just like, yeah, I agree with this person, so I'm going to give that a like and a retweet, and it just turns into absolute chaos. Right.
I really enjoy this. I mean, we got to get together and do another show sometime, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be able to do this in person now that we're all getting vaxxed.
Yeah. Matter of fact, how close are you to what town is that? Not Newark. Well, maybe it is Newark. Yeah. How close are you to Newark?
That is probably, I want to say, like 30, 40 minutes out.
Oh yeah. I gotta get you on From the Dungeon with D.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're all part of the same network. Me, D, well, everyone else is from like California and like way out on the West Coast. But yeah, D is what kind of got me into, start doing podcasting again. I was on his show a couple years ago. He also does a lot of, band reviews, band interviews and stuff like that. But I'll make sure I send him your way.
Awesome, thank you. I would love to check it out.
Trust me, you're gonna love him. He's also a multi-instrumentalist as well. I think he played both guitar and bass.
Nice.
All right, it's great talking with you, huh?
Great talking with you. Thank you for having me.
I'm really looking forward to this album release.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, and I mean what I said when I said I want to get the whole box set, everything, both the vinyl, the cassette. I'm probably like your biggest fanboy right here.
I appreciate that so more than you know. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. I'm glad that you dig everything that we're doing.
Yep, like Palpatine said in Star Wars, we will watch your career with great interest.
Right.
All right, KK. It was nice seeing you again, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice seeing you.
Aye, hail Satan.
Hail Satan.
In a simple minute's time, on the edge of 10 thin dimes, I took a little walk